I started to think that maybe I've been a little bit too hard on Brad Hand in the past. And I mean, it's because it looks like he's having a good season out there in Colorado. And then comes out to face the Mets in Colorado, the most hitter-friendly park. Lindor hits this monstrous 106-mile-an-hour shot to left, and then it just dies on the warning track. Then it sunk back in. Yeah, that's why I don't like Brad Hand. Episode 21 of the Mets Weekly Podcast, Brutal Honesty, 60 minutes, intro. All right, I have traditionally done this every single week for 20 straight episodes, so it's time to switch it up. Frank, it's all yours.
Make sure you guys are subscribed to the Mets Weekly Podcast. We also have the Twitter. Make sure to follow that. We have all the other links in the description, and we are available on several platforms. Carson's made sure that we are available on a whole bunch, so there's a lot of different ways you can hear us and, contact us and all that stuff. Always want to talk to you guys, provide the feedback. What you think about the podcast? It's probably going to be a negative one with the way the weekend went. But again, brutal honesty, like he told you in the beginning.
And let's just start with the brutal honesty. How are we feeling? The Mets cruising along, ups and downs. Andrew, I'll start with you.
Well, I mean, we start the week off doing what we always do, and that's just sweep Philadelphia, make them our child. I mean, just everything goes right. The pitching, Senga has his best outing in his major league career. The bats start hitting. Pete Alonso hits nukes, and Mark Canha actually does productive things. Mm-hmm. And if we just forget how to play baseball, Buck Showalter continues to not know how to manage, puts out a lineup on Sunday, that I swear to God, he just threw all the names in a bag, and said, you know what, here's the lineup, including putting Tommy Pham in the leadoff spot. Oh, he homered twice. He also made an egregious error in the outfield. We'll get to that later. Phillies beating them is always fun, but the fact that our Canadian brethren just come in here and then just a positive start to really put a shit Sunday for the weekend. And again, now we go to Atlanta. So who knows how that's going to feel.
Frank?
Frustrating. I mean, this is a few times in a row. It feels like this happens where as soon as the Mets start to win a series and you feel like, okay, we're getting back on the right track, they aren't able to put it together and win back-to-back series. And then you kind of question again, like, okay, we think that they have things going in the right way, but then you see these bad performances. They continue to struggle with men on base, and you're like, okay, we still have the same problems that need to be worked on. Still see a lot of struggles from the bullpen, and nothing has been done to do anything about it. I mean, we still see the same minor league caliber arms out there, and it's just become very frustrating because we're in June now, and we're still seeing the same bones from April that shouldn't be here still.
I mean, obviously, we're just giving a little bit of a teaser of the first segment, obviously, just like right off the bat of like how these games have been going. But this is probably one of the streakiest teams I've ever seen in my life. I mean, they get really, really hot at like top notch, and then they just fall so quick. Radio spikes at this point of how very inconsistent they can be. I mean, or consistently inconsistent, however you want to say.
And that's why they're exactly at 500. They're not really good. They're not really bad. They're just, when you have good and bad, it makes you average. Like, they're, 500.
The back and forth tug at the heartstrings, and that's pretty much how they do it. And that's what you see as a 500 team. So let's recap this week's games. Now, the Mets began a 6-game homestand with the Phillies, and Mark Canha led the way, going 3 for 6 with home runs in back-to-back days and 6 runs batted in. Max Scherzer, Carlos Carrasco, and Kodai Senga all went 6 or more innings pitched as the Mets swept the Phillies in their first meeting of the year. But the second half of the homestand was a lot more difficult as former Met Chris Bassett shoved 7.2 scoreless innings with 8 strikeouts in a 3-0 win on the road. The Mets offense continued to struggle into the next game, but the slumping Daniel Vogelbach gave the Mets an early lead with his first RBI in 17 games and his first extra base hit since May 3rd. After 5.1 innings pitched of 1-run ball, Tylor Megill was pushed to 103 pitches before the tying run was charged. Adam Ottavino and David Robertson were stretched beyond an inning before Robertson gave up the lead run on a Vlad Jr. RBI double, and Toronto took the first 2 games of the series. In the finale, Kodai Senga struggled through 2.2 innings pitched, allowing 3 earned runs, 1 unearned, and walking 5, but the Mets bats eventually did fight back. Tommy Pham with 2 solo shots to cut the lead in half. Pete Alonso with his 21st of the season that clinched the Citi Field home run record, and Starling Marte tied it with the Mets' 4th solo shot of the game. But the next inning, Dominic Leone would give it right back to make it 6-4 Toronto off the bat of Brandon Belt to complete the sweep. The Mets go 3-3 in this week's homestand, now standing at 30-30, 5 games back of the Braves for the NL East lead.
Let's start with the obvious biggest elephant in the room, and that is, again, we've said it, when Pete Alonso's not hot, this offense sucks. And it doesn't also help that the other aircraft carrier, via contract-wise, in Francisco Lindor, is giving you Joey Gallo results. Like, just golden sombrero. He had 2 golden sombreros in the series against Toronto. Just uncompetitive ABs. And he's like, I'm taking a couple pitches. Like, no pitch recognition. A slider's just in back foot slider he's swinging over. Can't handle the high fastball. Obviously, Pete, same thing. In a slump again. And then the kids. Alvarez is 0 for his last 15, I think it was. And Brett is like 0 for his last 23 or whatever. Brett's just, his ABs are not looking good. But when your 4 best hitters, hypothetically, aren't hitting, and especially with Alonso's case of him being that main aircraft carrier, you're seeing this offense. When Eduardo Escobar and Mark Canha have been your best hitters, that's the problem. You'd like that to all, they can be good, but you want your actual top hitters to produce. And then when Mark Canha has to carry you to beat the poverty-ass Phillies, there's no other. Again, you didn't face Wheeler. Nola was bad, and you had Ranger Suarez for his first good start of the year, and then Taiwan Cookie. Well, I almost called him Cookie Carrasco. I almost called him Taiwan Cookie Carrasco.
Same thing.
Yeah, same thing. And you can only get 2 or 3 runs off him before, of course, an injury or not an injury. His velocity was down in there, whatever. They gave that man $78 million. Enjoy it, Philly. We laugh at you for a reason. The dude just sucks. And I got Mets fans on Twitter. Oh, I want Taiwan Walker back. No, go shut up. Shut up. I'd rather watch Dylan Bundy pitch than watch Taiwan Walker throw another pitch for the New York Mets. Stop it. Continue the inconsistency of the team. You get great pitching, and you're getting little offense. But when you're getting the decent offense, the pitching went to shit. So this team can't just get on a roll all together, symbiotic. Nope. One's got to be one, and then the other one's got to be ass. It's never they're all hitting the stride at the same time. But again, Toronto just comes in and just Chris Bassett. Who would have thought a former Met coming into Citi Field was going to shove against a former team? In the labor, you think when you're praying for the wife to go and for the baby to come out, this guy can get out of the goddamn game. Nope. Got to be a rain delay too, of course, and just push it back. But it's just the consistency of this team. It's just, they have a really good series and a really bad series, which if they keep the trend, hell, maybe they go down to Atlanta and sweep them. And then we're going to go nuts next week.
And this is going to be obviously the title of the podcast for the spoilers, The Tale of Two Paths, basically. I mean, you're looking at it. You had Taiwan Walker face us. You had Chris Bassett face us. And it went in 2 different directions. And Taiwan Walker didn't give any length. He looked like shit, was throwing meatballs the whole time. And we weren't hitting because, they just decide not to hit. You know what's crazy, Frank? Yusi Kikuchi.
Yeah, I mean,
nuts.
I mean, the way I evaluate players is you can never make a determination on the base off their performance against the Mets, because that was the case. Paul DeJong should be making $341 million and not Lindor.
Hey, Paul DeJong is hitting like 470 since he's been called back up. Calm down.
Yeah, I mean,
Absolutely
not. So I never try to overreact to how a guy performs or doesn't perform against the Mets. But it's frustrating, especially when it is against the former guys. We talked about it on the Stroman episode. Now you have Bassett and these other guys. So it's always annoying. But again, I don't really care who the Mets are facing. I just want them to win ball games. Whether they're facing former Mets, future Mets, never Mets, doesn't matter. I mean, you got to win ball games. When you are 500, when you are 3rd place in your division, I mean, eventually things got to start getting going, because you're now in June. Atlanta is playing good baseball, as always. So they're not going to start losing anytime soon. So, I mean, you have a big matchup, the head-to-head. That's a good way to gain ground. But it wouldn't surprise me if we saw the Mets actually win the series against Atlanta, but then get smoked by the Pirates. Because we've seen this time and time again where they do good against the good teams, but they do bad against the bad teams. So it's just very confusing. We can't really figure out why, but I think one of the reasons is still the amount of players on this roster that really have no business being here. And the guy that really stands out to me is Tomas Nido. I mean, is there a worse hitter in baseball statistically than Tomas Nido right now? It's hard because, I mean, if you look at the advanced numbers, he's got I think a minus 22 WRC plus. Like, I don't I don't know how much worse can you possibly get when it gets to that point. And we already saw the Tomas Nido dropping down sacrifice bunts. You know, we've already reached that stage of the season, and his defense is not there. So, I mean, we just have, guys like Nido, guys like Dominic Leone, all these guys that just come in and are brutal to watch. And when you have the highest payroll, just have no business to be out there getting as much playing time as they do. And what's so crazy to me about the lineup that the Mets put out today, yes, it actually got them the most runs they got all weekend, but you sat some key guys, and you didn't need to when you have a day off the next day. That's what always bothers me is they're like, okay, you know what? You want Nimmo to get a day off here and there. That's fine because it's a long season. But if you have a day off the next day, I mean, come on. He could play through it. I mean, if you had a stretch where you had a ton of games around, no days off, all right, that's fine. You can give the guy a breather. But, just to have this kind of lineup and even Buck Showalter, Starling Marte is finally picking it up a little bit, by the way. I mean, he hit the home run today.
Absolutely.
He almost had a triple. He's starting to pick it up a little bit. And they asked Buck Showalter about, maybe we can move Marte back up the lineup. He's like, no, he's fine where he's at. He had the same excuse for Francisco Alvarez, who, I mean, he batted him ninth, then he batted him second. Now he's back to batting ninth. I mean, it's just the lineup is so all over the place. Now Pete Alonso's, Eduardo Escobar's batting after Pete Alonso now. I mean, again, how do you go from the bench to one of the most important spots in the lineup? I mean, the guy who bats after Alonso is one of the most important spots in this lineup because Alonso is the most important player on the team. So protecting him is also very valuable. You put Escobar right after him. So, again, just the lineup construction is so confusing to me. The decision-making by Buck Showalter is so confusing to me. You pushed Adam Ottavino, you know you're not supposed to at his age. You pushed David Robinson, which you're really not supposed to at his age. You have Dominic Leone out there way too long. Just like so many things that Buck Showalter continues to do on a daily basis, and you see what happens when they lose these ball games. And just it's overall very frustrating. And what's crazy to me is that they had the game, I believe it was the Saturday game, they had one less hit than they did on Sunday. Oh, no, sorry, they had one more hit on Saturday than they did on Sunday, but they scored 3 more runs on Sunday because it was all home runs. So the Mets just had, I think it was 0 for 11 on Saturday with runners in scoring position. But on Sunday, it was 4 solo home runs. So it's just like, I mean, what are we doing here? So it just shows you once again the value of the long ball, having hitters that can consistently do it, because then maybe that would make your team a little more consistent, because the approach that they have of the singles and walks, like we said, it's hard. That's why you're so up and down, because it's a very up and down way of playing baseball. So I just think that, and how many guys they're struggling right now, led by Lindor. Even the broadcast talking about it, he can't hit the outside pitch right now. He's just totally lost with the way his stance is right now, opening up so much. Very vulnerable the outside corner when he's batting left-handed. He's been pretty good all year right-handed, but you face so little lefties nowadays that it's just like, what's the point? And again, just overall very frustrating when you see finally Marte picking up, but then, like we said, you see Alonso go downhill. You see Lindor go downhill. Kind of picks up a little bit, but again, when it's not all meshing and not all clicking together, you have these kind of results. And when you have your hot hitters kind of all over the place, like Canada's up here and Marte's down there, whatever, you're not going to get that consistent offense. So I'm glad they did a different lineup, but this isn't the different lineup that they should have done. So it's still just very confusing to me. And again, I mean, I'm curious to see. I think if the Mets finish the year at or around 500, I would hope that Epler loses his job, and I feel like Buck would probably have to lose it too. So they really got to get it going at some point, because this is just not going to get it done with the type of payroll that has been given to them by Cohen.
Again, this just comes off of just so many things that I see with Buck Showalter day in and day out, and so many times this happens that I just forget the specifics and I just move on to the next day and is like, oh, what do I not like today? I know what I didn't like today in this last game, obviously. I wasn't a fan of Tommy Pham leading off, but he hits 2 homers because why not? But at this point, we tie the game 4-4. We have the momentum. And then Dominic Leone's out there for no reason whatsoever. You had Jeff Brigham available because he pitched the next inning or whatever, right? Had him. You could have went to Acevedo to close it out. He threw 17 pitches the day before, and you have an off day tomorrow, which is another thing that really pisses me off when he doesn't use his best relievers before an off day. So, and I understand Acevedo's older. He went more than 1 inning. But
yeah, this is the one time I think he wouldn't when the guys go. First of all, they shouldn't have gone more than 1 inning Saturday. That's the thing, because if they don't go more than 1 inning Saturday, then they could be available Saturday, Sunday. So, it's just you hurt yourself in both areas.
I feel like he worries about rest and he worries about workload than actually winning a game. When you have a chance to win a game, I feel like you should push all in for it. And especially when you drop the first 2 of the series, you need a win. And the fact that you had an off day the next day, you had a safety net there. And the fact that Dominic Leone is in there in a high leverage situation. And I also want to give a shout out to Steven Nagosic. He did a fantastic job keeping us in position to possibly tie that game. But I feel like he goes for so many safety nets for a team that is at 500 right now and not consistently winning. For some reason, he has this write down formula of, we're down 1 run. I can't use any of my good relievers. Oh, well, I have to use Robertson in the 9th. He can only pitch in the 9th, which is so confusing to me because it looked like he was willing to be very flexible with Edwin Diaz last year. Let's not forget, he maybe put him in the 7th sometimes, put him in the 8th. So I don't know where that is. But in my opinion, and this is just off of what I've seen from the first 60 games, Edwin Diaz, he saved a lot of bullpen decisions that Buck Showalter made last year. He saved his ass many, many times, in my opinion, because he was just so dominant. You don't have Edwin Diaz right now. Obviously, we've talked about how, this bullpen is just not as talent worthy as it is. You have good weapons in the back end of this bullpen. You should be willing to go to them in these high leverage situations, not just to save their rest, which they're going to get the next day.
I think one of the things that's been pretty noticeable to me over the past week is the use of Jeff Brigham. And I think the need for another left-handed reliever, because I've noticed these back-breaking home runs that Brigham has given up. They came to Blackman. They came to Varsho. They've come to these lefties with his slider, the way it breaks in like that, goes right into the lefty wheelhouse. So I think that if you could maybe get another lefty, said you get the most out of Brigham and kind of tag team them a little differently and use him a little differently, you might actually get an effective reliever because he does have better stuff than your Leones and Tommy Hunter and some of the other guys in that pen. So, but we've seen Brigham give up some games, and I just feel that it's been against a lot of lefties. And we've said, for years now, literally years, the Mets could use another lefty. The Mets could use another lefty. They never do it. So this is the situation you find yourself in. Brooks Raley, he's been pretty good lately, but he's only one guy. It's like we said. You can't. Ottavino, Robertson, Raley can't pitch every inning. That's just what it comes down to. If you had Diaz in there, then you could. Then we had talked, in the offseason about you have your A squad, B squad kind of thing, and you could kind of get away with it more days than not. But right now, when you lose some of the caliber of Edwin Diaz, you made him a top priority for years and you don't have money and then have no backup plan. This is where you're at. We talk so much about the depth and things like that, then address it, and you see the problems. You see just a lot of guys that really don't belong out there. And as a fan, it's just frustrating to watch. Whenever should Dominic Leone, first of all, Dominic Leone shouldn't be out there, but then for him to go multiple innings in a high leverage game, crazy. Absolutely crazy.
They think he's just some of this elite arm somehow. I don't get it. Like, the fact that they just gave this guy a major league contract while the season was still going, it wasn't the offseason, and they just gave this guy a major league contract. What was it? Prorated $1.2 million. Why? What was the point of that? I don't understand that. It's just, if you were going to bring in a reliever like that, it would have been like during the freaking offseason when whatever. But I guess they didn't expect to have as many injuries as they did.
Well, they should have. That's no excuse. You're the Mets. You have a bunch of old men. You're gonna have injuries. And like we talked about, when you had the bad rotation starts, you messed up the bullpen. And it was so obvious we were going to have rotation injuries. I mean, that you could see it from a mile away. So they built the team like this. They should have been much more aware that this could happen very quickly.
It's a possibility that, the inconsistency from the starters is kind of forcing Buck Showalter to, manage a bullpen that he has never seen in a possibility. But you know what? In that 20 years of experience that he has, figure it out.
I mean, it's gotten to the point of, is it time for Ryan Lavender to come up and make a big league appearance? Because holy shit, at least he's getting outs and he's left-handed in AAA at this point. Because Grant Hartwig has struggled, but I'd rather see him than Dominic Leone or Tommy Hunter. Like, I'd rather you have young guys that suck than these 40-year-old bum-ass retirement home arms just eating, their bones are decaying away in the bullpen. Yeah. I'd rather at least it be young guys and sucking, and then have the upside of, hey, maybe you can get a 2-week stretch of dominance of, Grant Hartwig or, again, Lavender or anyone else than watching Tommy Hunter and his, big bone self running out of the bullpen. I'm going to throw a 92-mile-an-hour cookie down the middle. Hit it.
Anything else?
A lot of cookies.
As we go to 25 minutes on the first topic. We are currently a third of a way into the season, and no one came into this year with more intriguing upside than Kodai Senga. Former star from Japan signed a 5-year, $75 million contract this offseason to join the Mets rotation behind Hall of Famers Justin Verlander and Max Scherzer for 2023. So far this season, in 11 starts, 57.2 innings pitched, Senga has posted a 3.75 earned run average, striking out 29.1% of batters, and on pace for a 3.6 wins above replacement per 200 innings pitched. Along with 97 to 98 mile per hour gas and throwing the kitchen sink, Senga's signature ghost fork has emerged as one of the best pitches in all of baseball this year, with a whiff rate over 55%, registering just 2 hard hits all season and a negative 1.5 run value per 100 pitches. We've seen good Senga. We've seen bad Senga. That was the most recent Senga, probably the worst start of his career. And I had this topic down before that start. So I guess give me a grade.
Like, again, there's been a lot more ups than downs. But again, for a guy changing leagues, and he's been okay. I give it like a B-. Again, he's had some good starts. The walk problem is an issue, but again, kind of expected it. He had a walk problem in Japan. And I wanted to take a look at guys coming from the NPB to come into the Major League that rookie year. Let's start with the obvious guy in Yu Darvish. If this was Yu Darvish's rookie year, a 4 ERA, 191 innings pitched, the highest walks in his career, he's walked 89 batters and 191 and a third innings pitched. Yes. Again, Senga's already, I believe, is close to 40 already, so he's probably going to bomb that number that Darvish has. But again, for a rookie year, changing the NPB again, we've made the things, the bigger ball in baseball, adjusting, culturally, coming to a whole new country and, trying to also be a $60 million pitcher and trying to be a number 3 in a team that's supposed to be a World Series contender. He's had a lot of ups, he's had a lot of downs, but again, he showed bright spots, and you could see why he got paid, why he was good in that league, and you're seeing the concerns we had. The walk issue is still a problem, but again, hopefully in a couple of years, again, as his career goes out, year 2, hopefully that continues to go down. But for a rookie year, a third of his career, I've been impressed at times. But again, as a rookie, yes, he's older, again, close to 30-year-old rookie. You can't make that excuse. I've seen signs that he can be a quality top, maybe high 2, low 3 kind of guy, and that was kind of what we expected. He's had nights like against Philadelphia, which again, a team that whiffs like, they got Anne Frank in the batter's box, still swinging anything. And the ghost fork was, woo! Nick Castellanos like, woo! JT Realmuto. And Bryce Harper was so scared he wasn't even in a lineup to face the ghost fork. A more patient lineup, he'll struggle against. A team that is very chasey, he will dominate like against the Phillies lineup. So I think, again, for a first, 50 innings he's throwing in the big leagues, I think I've seen signs that he will be good. But again, it's a rookie. I'm okay. I'll give him a B-. I do think he can be a quality, and I think he can be, and I think you're going to see more time. The longer he is this year, you'll see more starts like last than starts like today.
Yeah, my grade's also in the B somewhere, B-, B-, whatever. And it's because, like we said, that you can see the upside. You can see what he's capable of when he has the really good start against Philadelphia, getting a ton of strikeouts. That's big. This team needs a guy who can get some strikeouts because, eventually if we ever get Mauricio out there in the field and Vientos out there in the field, it's going to be an adventure. It's not going to be pretty. So we're going to need somebody who can strike out some batters to kind of minimize that. So that's really nice to see. That's the most sustainable way of pitching if you get a lot of strikeouts. But like I said, the days when he's walking batters, and there have been a few. I mean, this against Toronto was not the first time or the second time. When he has these days where he walks a lot of batters and they're not chasing the ghost fork and all this other stuff, yikes. I mean, it's hard to watch. I mean, when you have that much traffic on the base paths, he's lucky it wasn't worse than what it was today, because they just had a lot of guys on base. And he was able to escape a lot of the jams, but all of that, all in all, it ends up adding up to a lot of high leverage usage as far as workload and things like that. And then there was just a lot of talk about going into the Sunday game about him finally pitching on normal rest, which was like the first time all season long, especially because in Japan they pitch once a week, whatever. So again, all the excuses, different slope, different ball, different schedule. We've just had all these different things for Senga to adjust to. But all in all, he's been pretty good. I mean, I definitely got to give him that. But what scares me is just the unknown. That you never know what day is going to be like, oh, we got bad Senga. We're just going to walk the ballpark. And then you get really good Senga. So ideally, you'd like someone that's a little more consistent, that that they're going to give you quality starts, because when you're giving so many free passes, you're making things really hard on yourself to be successful. We knew that there may be a walk problem. We've seen it already. And with how much that ghost fork moves and things like that, I don't know if he'll be able to fix it. So this is something that we'll have to monitor. Does he become a reliever at some point? It's too early for that conversation. But when you see games like today, you're like, oof. It's tough because you see the great start against Philly, but then you see the start against Toronto, and you're just not really sure what to think. So that's why it's like, B minus, because it's still so early in the season, in his contract, his major league career. Obviously, like he's a rookie technically, so there's still a lot to be determined.
Out of all of our pitching, and our pitching's been pretty brutal this year, I've definitely have looked forward to the Senga starts a lot more. It's obviously just the fact that, it's just a new thing. He's, coming from a different country. It's a different situation. I'd say that the walk problem, I don't know, because at some points, I believe that he can be dominant with that weakness. And then there's some times where if he doesn't have it, he's just not going to have it. And the thing that doesn't worry me that much with the walks is the fact that he actually has multiple out pitches and he knows how to actually put guys away with 2 strikes. Unlike the other guys that we have, like Tyler McGill or David Peterson or even Carlos Carrasco sometimes. And that's the one thing that is really something that I've really been impressed with, because I really expected him to have a lot of command issues and leave a lot of things over the plate. And the ball would just be going over the wall with his inexperienced pitches and the lack of depth or whatever. And no, he really has not whatsoever. And it just seems like it's just a control issue. And that's something that we all knew that was going to be a situation coming in. But we all know that when he can be explosive, when he can be top notch, he can be top notch. And I think that, from his first start to now, you're definitely starting to see him adjust a lot better. And I feel like he continues to get better with every single start. Today wasn't great. I'm never really that nervous when he does walk someone, as compared to when I am with either McGill now, at least. McGill now, used to not. David Peterson, or at sometimes, I would be very nervous with Scherzer as well. So at some points, he's going to buckle with runners on base, but I'm comfortable with him from the stretch. And that says a lot about the Mets pitching more than it does about Senga, because a lot of the Mets pitchers are just not good from the stretch whatsoever. And when they put guys on base, they just have a give up pitch and the floodgates open. And, listen, he was replacing Bassett. So that's one of Bassett's specialties. So, maybe you're getting the value there. Overall is a great, I probably would say a B as well. I would say that he's had some A+ outings, but overall there's a B. I really thought there was going to be a lot of growing pains, and the highest of growing pains that we have seen they're not as brutal. Out of the Mets' entire lineup, every day, no one has gotten more stagnant playing time than Mark Vientos. Since his promotion to the majors, Vientos is 6 for 32 with 1 home run, 4 RBIs, and a walk. Last week, Buck Showalter played Vientos 3 games in a row before benching him in 3 of the next 5 following games. When asked about his playing time, the 24-year-old power bat said that it's an adjustment, honestly. I feel like I'm doing a good job, and I'm working hard every day, so that's all I can do right now. Despite the lack of results and sample, Vientos would currently sit in the top 10% in hard hit rate and average exit velocity on a qualifying hitter pace. There's been things that we've seen that we don't like with Mark Vientos overall. We've seen things that we've seen that we really do like. What is the best decision for the Mets right now? Do they need to send him down to AAA, or do they just need to continue to play him? Because this in-between stuff doesn't work.
Yeah, I mean, here we go again. I mean, we're having another conversation about playing time when it comes to one of the young Mets players and what we should do. And, I mean, the reason why Mark Vientos got called up is because of how phenomenal he was performing in the minor leagues, hitting home runs, extra base hits, and he was hitting so well that the Mets had no choice. So it's been mixed results, mostly because the playing time is mixed. If you send him back down to the minor leagues, what do you think he's going to do? He's going to tear the ball off the cover and be like, wow, this guy's really good. Maybe we should call him up. He might be able to help us out a little bit. So they're going to find themselves in the same position they were before. So what bothers me is that we know it's so obvious these young players need playing time in order to get better. But who are you benching them for? Daniel Vogelbach. Really? Like, we know what Vogelbach is. Like you said, he got his 1 hit in a month. It was his 1 extra base hit. Oh my gosh, it didn't go over the wall still. So he did that. Big deal. Like, Vientos, there's still so much more upside. There's still so much more potential. So let the man play. I mean, the guy, the one time he got to play a few games in a row, he went like 3 of 11. That's still, mid twos. That could play. He's still getting started. And then what do? You put him as a pinch hitter. He drives in a run. But, I mean, a lot of the times where Vientos plays, it's still as a pinch hitter. He still is not getting that consistent playing time. So, to me, until I give him like a month of play, especially since he's a DH, he could play just about every day. Until I see that, where he's actually playing every single day, if he continues to still struggle, is not making any improvements, is not making any adjustments, then okay, fine, you can send him down to the minor leagues. But he came up last year early, way too early, like we said with all the young guys, struggled, not ready. Okay, made some changes and played great. We could call him up again. And now we're back in saying, what do we do? I don't want this to be another Alvarez situation where, at first we're like, is Alvarez a bust? Do they need to send him back down? No. Now it's impossible to send that guy down. So with Vientos, like you said, he can still hit the ball really hard. That's something that all these other old men on their best days cannot do. So I still need that potential. This lineup still needs somebody like Mark Vientos in it. Versus lefties, versus righties, I don't care. I don't think he should become a platoon player, especially if, you're waiting to face left-handers. Because like we said with Lindor earlier, you see so little left-hand starting pitchers nowadays. So to me, he's got to be in there every day, no matter who it's against. I think sent to the minor leagues, you just find yourself in the same position where before, where you're lacking a bat, he's performing great. You're like, oh, maybe we should call that guy up. Like, when he got called up his very first game, it's a home run. He's already gotten big hits for you late in games. Has Vogelbach ever got a clutch hit? Like, late in games, close game, has he ever got a hit? Not that I can remember off the top of my head, but I seen Vientos do it a couple times. So you can't.
Has he ever done anything?
You know what I mean? Like, I'm serious. Like, 9th inning, extra innings. Like, when's the last time Vogelbach got a hit? He's not even in the game by then because he's either been taken out because there's a left-hander on the mound. He's been taken out because they need a pinch runner because he's too damn slow. Like, he doesn't even get to make it to the end of the game. So it's just like, what are we doing here? I mean, like we say, let the young kids play. It's all about upside and potential. And we know this guy can hit long balls. We need it. So I just let him keep playing. And then if he still struggles, then okay, we could revisit the discussion of maybe sending him down. But I just don't think he's gotten a fair shot still. I don't know how you expect a young man to build up any confidence or momentum or rhythm if you're playing him so in and out. And you're saying, oh, he's playing every day, but if he's pinch hitting, that's not starting. That is not the same thing. You're coming up ice cold and just, oh, we don't know when you're back. Just, there you go. That's not the correct way for a young player to learn. So I really have not liked that at all.
But with Buck Showalter there, he's going to play Vogelbach, and there's no point in just having the kid sitting on the bench when he could be playing every day in Syracuse and let him hit. Should he be playing every day? Yeah. But again, with our manager that just will continue to not play the kids, I'd rather just have him sit in Syracuse, play every day, than having him sit on the bench, get a more flexible player up here. Buck wants Luis Guillorme or Danny Mendick back up here, and let the kid actually play every day. Continue at least try to bring up his trade value again, because if we're not going to play him, and we've said it for how many years now, use him as a trade chip, and he'd be more valuable if teams think, hey, every day he's hitting homer in Syracuse again, instead of, oh, I'm rotting away on the Mets bench because of Dan Vogelbach. So he should be playing every day, and it just, again, like I said with the bullpen, I'd rather a guy who has upside to being a productive power source than a fat old guy. I'm sick of fat old guys, and as a fat guy, it kills me. Because, again, I like seeing people my
and
size,
as an old guy,
robust.
it kills me because seeing people my age, I want to see them succeed.
And then with Frank, all these senior citizens in the Mets rotation in the bullpen.
Yeah.
But at this point, you're just hurting yourself, and you're hurting your trade value for a guy that if you don't see on this team past the next 2 years, why are you just wasting away a potential trade value? Because you could have traded him in the offseason for Hunter Renfroe, but, you didn't want to do that. You're just hurting yourself for your team building perspective and, again, the kid's progression by just sitting him on the bench. Oh, you get to sit next to Tomas Nido and Tommy Pham. Get all the knowledge from those guys. So at this point, just send him back down to AAA. Give Buck what he wants and give him his crappy utility bearded guy back and be done with this.
I mean, you hurt yourself in the short term and long term if you do that. So eventually they have to make a decision. It's like we always say, you got to be decisive and stick with it. This like kind of in, kind of out. It just doesn't work. And we've seen that just with so many different things with this team that I just don't get why they keep doing that.
It's so weird because when I look at Mark Vientos and I look at all of the other prospects that we have talking about how they need to play every day and they need to get their reps, I feel like this is more damaging to Mark Vientos than anyone of not playing every day, because we talk about, Brett Beatty, when he's playing every day, he's got to be playing third base. And when Alvarez is playing every day, he's got to play catcher. Well, Vientos doesn't really have that whole title suited for him. He is a DH, and that is the one thing he does. He's here to hit. So you already have him at a limited role. He's not playing in the field. And then now you just have him at a limited role and then not doing anything. So that's even more damaging. So I want to see the guy play every day. And listen, I'm a very judgmental guy. I judge everyone. I hate everyone equally. But the thing about Vientos is that I don't know if he's a good major league player or not because he's not playing. I'm not seeing him out there. And I can talk about, oh, I don't like ground balls. I don't like seeing him chase all these crappy pitches, but I'm not seeing anything. So how can I even judge it whatsoever? I'm not the biggest fan of Mark Vientos, but I know that he could actually help a power-thirsty lineup if he does get consistent playing time. Hopefully he starts pulling the ball, because if not, I'm going to kill him. But they do have to play him every day because, as we all talk about, there's not a DH on this team. There isn't a DH on this team. What is the alternative? There is no alternative. And it seems like 60 games into the season, internally, stop it. It seems like 60 games into the season, we are still trying to deprive some kind of consistent DH, out of Buck Showalter. It's still going. This is still going, and it seems like it's going to continue to go for the next month or two or whatever.
It's gone on since they instituted the DH International
The Cano,
League
the
full-time.
Ruff, the Vogelbach. I mean, it's just Dom Smith. It's just not going to work. It just isn't going to work. Give it to the young guy. Just let him do it. Because Billy Epler had a press conference earlier this week. He talked about, the power improving through the prospects. And obviously we know that he was thinking that. We didn't even need him to say that. But okay, if you need power, you're not going to get it from Daniel Vogelbach. Give it to Mark Vientos. I can't talk about the young guy hitting his way on because they don't even give him an opportunity to do that. So it's either you play him or you send him down to AAA. You can't just have him hang around and talk to, Wayne Kirby on the bench. It just can't happen.
I mean, if we're talking about we need power in a Buck Showalter type of guy, a lot of grit, versatile.
Oh, no.
Bro, Luke Ritter got 10 nukes already this year. Like, when are we calling up the Ritter, bro? He already got 10 nukes. He's got 4 stolen bases. Don't care about the batting average. He hits bombs.
Okay.
He plays everywhere. Get Luke Ritter up here already.
Is this like this Matt Ruddick hype that I've been seeing?
I don't know. Yeah, that guy's been getting way too. Yeah, I've seen a lot of that guy too. But it's just Luke Ritter, my guy.
Enough with these guys in their mid-20s.
Hey,
they're just
he's got more homers
okay.
than Dan Vogelbach, Tommy Pham, and Tomas Nido combined this year.
Yeah, against a bunch of accountants. Okay,
he's in Double A now. He's facing.
All right, he signed for you. Okay, stop.
He's never. I don't got the Red Dog. I don't have. There's no autographs. This is just a grit.
He's not exclusive, huh? What a shock.
Not exclusive. Not like Kevin Parada in 2 weeks.
All right, Andrew, it's time for your expertise. Let's go. It's the first week of June, and we will have the next 2 months to talk about this. But since the emergence in his rookie year, Edwin's younger brother, Alexis Diaz, has been linked to the Mets ever since. The recent success of Alvarez, an executive source from the Mets front office, confirmed that the Mets have been receiving calls about their number 1 ranked prospect, Kevin Parada, last year's first-round pick by the Mets out of Georgia Tech. A majority of the Mets front office have agreed that it does make sense to move Parada, but less than half do believe that he should be moved for Alexis Diaz. The value market for Diaz is steep, as he is currently under team control until 2027 and has emerged as one of the best relievers in all of baseball. Mets need bullpen help. We know they do. He definitely could be a game changer, but if it is at the cost of Kevin Parada,
fuck no. I swear to God, if anyone at SNY had a brain cell, you got the GM. That's what pisses me off. You got a former GM, and he makes it look like he's a fucking idiot armchair GM on Twitter. This is a relief pitcher. Yes, a controllable. We've already done this. Top prospect, named Diaz, gave it up a top prospect that no one should have given up. No, when we did that. Wait, I just realized we had a shitty GM back then, and we have a shitty GM now. Oh, shit, the parallels might happen again.
He's not shitty. 101 wins. Stop.
101 wins, yeah. The value for Alexis Diaz, like you said, it's going to be astronomical. And you're going to have other teams involved. If they ask for Kevin Parada, here's what you do. Kevin Parada, huh? Next. Because you can go out and get Joe Kelly, you can go out and get a Kendall Graveman, a Liam Hendricks. There are plenty. Again, let's use a Billy Epler quote. It's going to be a very robust reliever market this year. There should be a robust reliever market. Yes, Alexis is probably the best arm available. I don't think that's unless for some reason Devin Williams was put on the market, which the Milwaukee Brewers, they're already hearing about Corbin Burns. Corbin Burns. That's a level of talent. A starting pitcher, control for this year and next year, Kevin Parada goes for. You don't trade a catcher, a top 20, already the 26th prospect, I believe, in baseball, according to the pipeline, already, or 36, one of the sixes. Yes, you have Alvarez. He's expendable. Why not have and here's the other thing. What's wrong with having a Jansen and Kirk? Hypothetical. What's wrong with that? And we've already said, especially when he was drafted, Parada's athletic enough. If we need him to move to the corner outfielder, make him a corner outfielder, he can be that. So I get it. Oh, we have Alvarez. Parada's fucking useless, according to everybody. He's not. He was a top 10 pick for a reason. It probably should have been a top 5 pick. Slot money got us to us. Thank you very much. But you can't just dump him because, we've got Alvarez. We've got somebody else behind him. This is a top, again, overall viewed prospect in baseball. It isn't like, he's the number 1 guy in the Mets system. He's not even a top. This is a guy who can be a big league player and gives you the flexibility. And to dump him for a reliever, yes, cost controllable. Go find Andres Munoz. Again, I made that example. Trade it for Austin Nola. You can find those guys. I don't trust Billy Epler to do because I'm going to make an Epler video pretty soon because there's a lot I need to get off my chest. But Epler guys and the Epler rotation and bullpen. Yeah, when I saw the article of Alexis Diaz for Kevin Parada, I almost went bald.
we know you don't give multi-year deals for relievers, and you definitely don't give up top 1 or top 5 prospects for relievers. I don't care how good Alexis Diaz is, and he's not as good as Edwin anyway. So I don't think it's worth it. If I'm going to trade Parada, it has to be someone much more in a marquee position. Like I always said, I would think starting pitcher. That's my first thing I'm looking at. With, again, the age of the rotation, I don't like this patchwork. Oh, let's just keep rotating 40-year-old pitchers over and over. I want something a little more sustainable. So whether that's a pitcher or a big-time position player that has versatile and has multiple big-time tools like power and speed and contact and things like that, then okay, sure, that's young, controllable. I'd rather trade product for that. But for a reliever, I just think that's absolutely crazy. I mean, we did before. We're lucky Kelenic isn't as good as he was supposed to be. He's had a good year this year, but when they had traded him, he was supposed to be like one of the best players in the league.
Yeah, Seattle looks fantastic with your little fucking butt buddy J-Rod, you piece of shit.
So we don't want to just be like, oh, well, Kelenic didn't turn out to be that much better than Edwin Diaz, so it was worth the risk. I don't think it's worth trying that again. And I think that, you know what, I do want the Mets to do something because Edwin Diaz got hurt, but I think this is a little drastic. I think this is a little desperate. And I feel like, you know what, I mean, if this team had Alexis Diaz and eventually Edwin comes back and gets that later, you do have a really, really nice bullpen. But if you still have, Tommy Pham and Escobar and Nito and Vogelback and all these really bad hitters on your team, it's not really going to matter. Because Alexis Diaz and Edwin Diaz can't pitch in a bunch of 0-0 games. It's not going to do anything for you. So I think that right now Parada could be more of use than that. So I'm not totally against trading him, but I just don't think that this is the right trade. I don't care how good the reliever is. I don't even care if it was Devin Williams. Like, you just don't do it. It's really not a smart thing. You look at what the Padres did for Josh Hader. That trade ain't looking too good. They gave up quite a bit, and he did not. Relievers could go downhill at any given point. I seen Alexis Diaz under pressure one time. And that was when Edwin got hurt and he had to pitch for Puerto Rico. He was a shell of himself. He was like so out of it. Maybe, okay, your brother got hurt. Fine. But when you're in New York and it's playoffs and there's significant pressure, I don't know if he can handle it. Is that this? It's not the equivalent, but the one time I seen him under pressure, he didn't get it done. And, it's like we talked about off stream with Aaron Hicks playing so well in Baltimore. When there's no pressure, you'd be surprised how good a player is. How many Cincinnati Reds have we seen that performed really well in Cincinnati come to the Mets, all of a sudden not so much? Because there's a lot of pressure in New York compared to Cincinnati. So Alexis Diaz, he's still very young. So again, just when it comes to relievers, any reliever, it's just too risky. And I think anytime you have another marquee catcher, it's hard enough to get one. The fact that you have two, that's really rare. You shouldn't give up one for a reliever.
Okay, you get the excuse. Your brother got hurt. Okay, your mom and dad got shot in the foot, and they also got ran over by a car. Okay, you get one excuse. All right, so, I think I made this more of just like a yes or no question as for just Parada for Alexis Diaz. I'm going to take this a little bit one more step further and say, why the fuck is this even a thought? Why are we even thinking about it at this point? Just nuking someone from the top 5, not even just for a reliever, but just like, why? What is the actual point of that when Parada has not even started his minor league career? What is he? He's played 30 games? He's barely even played. You don't need to trade a prospect because you have another guy at that position. They can try other positions and give you value somewhere else. They're young players. They can develop their game. That's the whole point. And I understand that Alexis Diaz is a cost-controllable reliever. He is not like another guy that you could trade for that is under contract, like Liam Hendricks or Rafael Iglesias or somebody else that is actually under a contract and not on team control. But how come compared to with the Mets and compared to with all these other teams, they give up nothing for these relievers? Nothing. Pennies. Their 22nd prospect and their 29th prospect. How come the first thought that the Mets always have with one of these elite relievers is, Let's just nuke somebody from the top 5. Like, I understand. I'm not trying to look like a prospect hugger or whatever, but like, come on. This is the first thought that you have. I understand the Mets bullpen. There's some brutal arms in there that I want to shove right down into the Hudson River and see them drown and bleed. But that's not worth giving up just a first-round pick for a reliever. And I understand it's Alexis Diaz and it's his brother, and he could teach him all the great stuff of being an elite reliever. But I'm not gonna go through another 2019 again. I'm sorry, I can't do that again. And listen, that's more just narrative based than actual fact. But I don't think that this is the area that you look into. If they want Kevin Parada for Alexis Diaz, then you talk to him in 2027 and see what he wants on the free agent market. Because this is just stupid. Like that, what's the point of that? Just get rid of Parada because we have Alvarez? Yeah, like we don't have another million positions that are long-term that are not locked down whatsoever. He can't try left field. He can't try right field. I mean, yeah, we have the DH position locked down right now. We have Daniel Vogelbach long-term. He's getting a huge extension. If you want a cost-controllable reliever, don't trade Daniel Vogelbach for Colin Holderman. How about that? You fucking idiot. End of story. I don't understand the thought process here. And to be honest, at this point, why is it even a thought of giving up a top 5 prospect for a reliever? I understand it's Alexis Diaz and one of the best in the game. But like, yeah, we already did this before. It already started an entire global debate of whether it's a good trade or not. Mets fans would kill each other for the guys who actually defended his older brother. I'm not doing it again. That's all I got to say. I'm not doing it again. All right. I have fought and fought and fought for Edwin Diaz, and now I have to fight for him even more with the fucking David Robertson stand. So fuck it. From one Diaz brother to another, Mets fans did get some very encouraging news regarding Edwin Diaz's rehab. As we all know, during a WBC celebration, Diaz suffered a full thickness tear to his patellar tendon in his right knee back in March. Now, earlier this week, Ken Rosenthal reported that Edwin Diaz is targeting a late season return. Diaz told The Athletic that if everything keeps going how it's going, we've got a good chance to pitch. The trainers and the doctors will decide, but I feel great. Let's see what's coming for us. Now, the surgery that Diaz underwent this spring typically has a recovery time of 7 to 8 months, but there are multiple athletes who have fully recovered in 6 months. A day after the 2022 World Series, the Mets extended Diaz to a 5-year, $102 million contract that made him the highest paid reliever in baseball history. The Mets are contending. Would you allow him to come back? Are you just wrapping him in bubble wrap? See you next year, Edwin.
Like I said a few weeks ago, for the last couple podcasts, I do think he's going to pitch. Again, with his arm being good, we've seen him walking. People made that a big deal. Oh my God, he's walking. Yeah, he's got 2 legs. His leg didn't blow off. It's fine. So he's going to get on a mound, I would say probably beginning of August, and then give him all month of August. Depending on where this team's at, if it's a mediocre 500 team or, guaranteed a wild card spot or not, I still think you're probably going to see him in September. But it is good to see that he's like, hey, I think I can pitch this year, and I'm going to be pitching probably in September. And the Mets, again, we made it clear they could use it. Again, love it to be sooner rather than later, but again, likely September at some point. But I wouldn't be surprised. Maybe he takes some steroids and he's here in August. Who knows?
Not for a 500 team. I don't think that's worth it. The only way I bring him back is if the Mets are right there in some kind of playoff race, whether it is division or wild card. That's the only way I do it. I do think that we will see him this year, though. I think based off the timetable, based on how fast he's progressing, and how much it seems like he really wants to get back. I mean, that's something, too. I mean, if you really are, determined, I will be back this year, and you have that kind of mindset, there's a higher chance that you'll see him. So, and like Andrew said, since he is a pitcher, since it is the leg, not an arm, I think there is a better chance that you see him. And I think that there's probably less injury risk since it is a pitcher that you could, even if he's not 100%, still put him out there. And I feel like no matter what, we're going to see him. I think even if, I talked about it a while back with the Syndergaard thing, I think even if the Mets are brutal, you'll still see him. That's just the kind of sense that I get. But I would only do it if they are right there in some kind of wild cards. If they're still around 500, it's not worth it. They invested too much into him to do that kind of risk. So unless it's like do or die, you know, if he's on the team, makes the playoffs. If he's not on the team, we don't make the playoffs. Unless it's that kind of situation, that's the only way I do it.
I mean, this is the best reliever in baseball. I mean, like, of course I want to see this guy back, obviously. I mean, after the incredible year that he had, we want to see what he can do after it. I mean, he's going to be here, whether it is starting at the end of the season, he's going to be here for the next 4 or 5 years if he, you know, opts into it or whatever. I don't even know, the whole contract stipulations or whatever, which is pretty smart with a reliever. But we talk about it, the lack of explosiveness in this bullpen, we don't have it. And even though we do see some guys working back or whatever who could be providing that explosiveness, right now it's torture watching these Steven Nagosics and the Tommy Hunters and the Dominic Leones and Drew Smith, of course. It's his knee. It is not his arm. And I also think that the recovery time is a little bit more in our favor because he's younger. He's not 35. He's not 37. He's not old as living dirt. So he's still young. So the recovery process can definitely be a lot better. So I think that it's possible. It's obviously something to push into the back of your mind because August and September, they are pretty long ways away as of right now in terms of baseball season sample. So I think that if he can come back and he feels like he can come back, obviously he's going to get his rehab or whatever. But I feel like, you know, if he can come back, let him do it. Why not? And it seems like he is determined to do it. And I want to see him back. I really do want to see him back because he is one of the most electrifying pitchers I've ever seen. And I want to see that again besides those freaking meatballs. And that's just a selfish point of view from me. But, you know, if we are in that playoff race, if we, you know, make adjustments to this actual team and this team looks, you know, alive consistently, who knows? I don't know. But I think that the confidence level, when we asked this a few weeks ago, I think it's a little bit higher because obviously you did get an update from it. But overall, I think that this is something that it's possible. And it's pointing in the direction that Diaz could return. But we're just going to have to wait and see. And he's got to continue this pace of recovery that he's already on. It's not Andrew's favorite segment. It's not Frank's favorite segment. It's not my favorite segment. It's everyone's favorite segment. Studs and Duds. One player that has played fantastic this week that we want to give flowers to and kiss on the mouth. And then one player that has played like absolute shit. And we want to take a monstrous size dump after Taco Bell on it. Let's start with Studs.
Not a lot of positives. Oh, there was a sweep, but you know it's bad. I guess Mark Cannon because he's the owner of Philadelphia. Like, I guess I'll go Cannon because I shit on him 2 weeks ago, or that saying he was literally useless. But I'll give it to Cannon just because he owned Philadelphia, and it's nothing better than sweeping Philadelphia, even though he didn't do anything in the Blue Jays series.
Yeah, Cannon was the one I had as well. Probably just like the one time I was going to be able to give it to him. But since Andrew took it, I will go with another one. And I'll actually give it to Max Scherzer because he's a guy that for a few podcasts we've talked about our problems with him, his inconsistencies, his struggles, his injuries, his excuses. You know, we had literally whole segments dedicated to being negative about Max Scherzer. And for him to finally put together a really nice start, give the 7 innings, which is super important because we talked about how bad some of these other relievers are and not overworking your top guys, I definitely have to give him his props there. So I will go with Max Scherzer. He also got 9 strikeouts. So we like punchies. So very nice. I'll give it to Mad Max.
I'm going to go with another pitcher because we have gotten some length recently. And I'm going to give it to someone who we've almost tossed completely over the edge. Carlos Carrasco, back-to-back quality starts. Good from the 5. We've wanted him to just be a 5 and just not suck. And that's what he's done these last 2 starts. So overall, he's looked pretty good. I am not hyping up any hype train. I would still trade him for a box of cookies right now because he's so goddamn old and injury prone. And every time when he leaves a fastball over the middle, my ass clenches. So I'm not full on hyping him up, but the last 2 starts, he has looked pretty good. Duds, there are a lot of them.
I'll save the other two for you two. I got to get on my child real quick because, again, you can make, it's adjusting. Again, now pitchers are not giving as many fastballs. He's not hitting fastballs. Like, he's missing fastballs like J.D. Davis levels of right down the dick, and he's just swinging through them. And he's not getting beat with second and obviously throwing these wipeout sliders, and he's just flailing. So, again, I'm not jumping off the boat, but again, it's been a week of just everyone's in a funk. The kids are all punished because everybody's grounded because everybody's been sucking lately. So I will say my dud of the week has to be Brett.
Since I am Puerto Rican, it would not be racist if I made Francisco Lindor the dud of the week. And it's mostly the strikeouts. I mean, that's the stuff that, like, I can't really say. He has hit some balls hard, and he said that in the post-game press conference. I believe it was today, the Sunday game. I think he's saying, I hit a couple over 100, and I hit this one, I hit that one. But you struck out just way too many times. I mean, that's something that I can't forgive. And just there's too many at-bats where he doesn't even look close. I mean, he literally lost. Like we said, they talked about the outside corner, swinging that stuff in the dirt. I mean, I know he wanted to change his approach this year of, hitting more fly balls. He's hitting way less ground balls. So that's good. He still has a lot of RBIs, all that stuff. But eventually, once you're struggling, I mean, I want to see some kind of adjustment. I mean, I know he wants to make these changes, but when it gets to this point and you're continuously struggling, there has to be situational approaches. When you are at the top of the order, you have Brandon Nimmo on base, you got 2 outs, 2 strikes. I need to see a different swing. I got to see, just throw the bat out there. I want to see him use all fields. I'm just not really seeing that. I'm just seeing pull. I know we want to pull, but there are times to not pull, especially when you're struggling like this. You can't be swinging for the fences. Take your little swings and just put bat on ball and see what happens. And then, you feel like you can cover all parts of the zone again. Okay, then maybe you can start opening up a little bit more. But right now, you're hearing the boos. He's getting asked about it, and we've seen Lindor before where when he starts getting booed and he starts talking about it post-game press conferences, he starts pressing. So he needs a road trip immediately because I don't think he's going to get out of the slump at home because it's just going to be a lot on him. So, again, when you are getting paid that money, there are those expectations that come along with it. So, for me, he's the guy right now that's really been struggling.
The only thing that I've liked about it, because there hasn't really been much to like this past week, it seems like he's definitely embraced the reaction a little bit better than he did in his first year. And he talked about it and he said, I understand their frustration. I want to win too. I want to succeed too. And, I'm not saying, embrace the boos and say that, yeah, I agree. I suck. But, I mean, at this point, that's just what's going to happen. I mean, when there's high expectations here in New York, it's a big market, it's a big stage. And, if you don't produce, you're just going to get booed. And that's just how it's going to be. You're going to get backlash no matter what. You guys stole my 2 duds that I had down here. I'm going to go with Dominic Leone because I'm just sick of seeing this guy. And I understand that he is not one of our high leverage guys.
But he's being used like it.
They gave him a major league contract, so he's going to be here the whole goddamn year. I'm just sick of seeing this guy. I really am. He had a decent 2-pitch mix and he just doesn't look good at all. He's just not good. So now that brings you to your rapid fire stories. The Mets have designated right-handed pitcher Jimmy Yacobonis for assignment. The 31-year-old bulk reliever went on to clear waivers and was outrighted to Syracuse. The Mets have signed right-handed pitcher Bailey Reed to a minor league contract. The hard-throwing right-hander is 24 years old and was just released by the Cubs earlier this week. The Mets have also acquired infielder Tyler White from Minnesota, and he was assigned to AAA Syracuse. White is 32 years old, former 33rd round pick by the Astros, and has not played in the majors since 2019. The Mets have acquired right-handed pitcher Vinny Natali from the Cubs for cash considerations. Natali has been added to the Mets 40-man roster and has been assigned to AAA Syracuse. Mets number 4 overall prospect Ronnie Mauricio was removed from the game on Sunday after having his leg bend back on a play at second base. He has been diagnosed with a sprained ankle, and the Mets will decide in the next few days if it warrants a minor league IL stint. Sam Coonrod and Steven Ridings, who have both been on the 60-day injured list with both lat strains, have finally come up with an update. Coonrod has now progressed to long toss and will throw off the mound in less than 2 weeks, and Ridings will begin a rehab assignment in Low A, Port St. Lucie on Tuesday. On August 26th at Citi Field, the Mets will hold a retirement ceremony for former pitcher Bartolo Colon. Colon is now 50 years old and was a fan favorite in Queens from 2014 to 2016. Parting words for episode number 21, Max Scherzer number, Lucas Duda, who was just passed for Citi Field home runs.
Yeah, I mean, you're getting to face the Braves, so we have a lot of history with them, and I'm just hoping don't be brutal. Don't just get absolutely blown out by the Braves, because I really just can't take that pain. I'm just so sick of it, of them constantly winning the division and things like that. So I want to see some fight. I want to see some improvement. I want to see at least one of these bums off the team, whether it's Leon, Hunter, Nogosic, even though Nogosic pitched good, I just want to see some kind of transaction. I want to see something new here, somebody quality on this team. If it means Volkenbach has to go, like, whatever. I just want to see something different, because it's clear that it's not sustainable. That's why you're seeing these ups and downs. It's just not working out. Something's got to give, so that's what I'm looking for.
Brave series coming up. We'll see how, again, they played well against the Rays, so they play good against the best teams in baseball, suck against everybody else. So why not win 2 out of 3 and then get swept by whoever we're playing on the weekend?
Pirates.
Oh, yeah, so we can see Andrew McCutchen, the guy we should have signed, go nuts. And
I'm looking at it right now, 5.5 games behind Atlanta or whatever it is. Lindor, if you want to, break out of this slump, this would be the perfect time to do it, because we're going to need some offense against this other offense that hits a lot of home runs. Last time we were in Atlanta, didn't go so well. That was one of the scarring moments of that end of the season. So let's not try to relive that. I'd love to get 2 out of 3. A sweep would be freaking awesome. Don't get swept. Don't look lifeless. Just don't suck. Let's go Mets. Thank you guys so much for watching, listening, wherever you are. Yeah, and we'll see you guys next week for episode 22.